This is the Magnatech film recorder. This particular unit was capable of 4-track recording on 35mm film, but there are models capable of up to 6 tracks. Each of the 4-channel record amplifier units are shown below the transport path and the 4-track record head stack. David Udall's Magnatech had a custom-made comparison playback overbridge designed and built by John Mosley when he built the Udall transfer bay. This overbridge had a VU meter that mirrored each record amplifier channel, with the advantage that each VU meter had a toggle switch just above it. If the switch was set to the left, the VU meter would show you the level of the signal coming to the record head. If the switch was set to the right, the VU meter would show you the level being reproduced on the playback head. This was obviously a tremendously handy addition to the Magnatech design, so that the transfer person could easily flip back and forth to make sure that the stock was indeed recording an exact one-to-one recording of the original material. The overbridge was also equipped with a reference tone generator. The head stack has 3 4-channel heads, each carefully calibrated for alignment and azimuth, so that the tracks are being recorded and played back precisely correctly. The head stack has 3 4-channel heads, each carefully calibrated for alignment and azimuth, so that the tracks are being recorded and played back precisely correctly. The first head is a degaussing unit, or the erase head. Even though this head is very good, it is always best to bulk degauss your stock on a professional motorized degausser prior to recording any material. The second head is the record head. Each channel of the record head is activated by the record and off square buttons in the center of each record amplifier that feeds that particular channel. The third head is the playback head. The playback signal is routed to your patch bay or routing unit, where you would have your speaker amplifier volume control and, of course, sent to your speakers so that the transfer person can listen to the audio. As we discussed before, these are the 3 35mm stocks that we can make audio transfers using a machine like the Magnatech. The only difference is that if we are asked to record onto the 35mm 3-stripe stock, we need to remove the 4-track head stack and replace it with a 3-track head stack, which is kept with all of the other head stack variations in a foam-fitted storage drawer. The 35mm mag stock roll is mounted on a special aluminum plate on the upper spindle. The stock comes down and around the upper guide roller just in front of the sprocket wheel. This capstan post has very precise teeth that the perforations of the 35mm film are locked onto by lowering the hinge lockdown pads above and below. When these lockdown pads are in place, the 35mm film cannot jump out of sync and is precisely controlled by a stepping motor for exact speed control. This sprocket wheel capstan serves the exact same purpose as the film synchronizers that editors use to sync multiple tracks together. The film then passes under the upper tension roller, up and over stainless steel rollers, and down over the erase, record, and playback heads, down and under the lower stainless steel roller, and up and over the lower tension roller, back under the sprocket wheel capstan. The transfer person is extremely careful to make sure that the loop, or the amount of tension coming from the top of the sprocket wheel capstan around and over the heads and back under the sprocket wheel capstan, is very precise. The film comes out and over the lower guide roller, then down to a spring-activated kill switch. When the film is brought taut on the lower take-up core below the record amplifiers, causing the kill switch to rise upward, a contact switch inside will activate the torque take-up motors in both the upper and lower platters. If the film runs out, breaks, or otherwise causes this spring-activated kill switch lever to drop down, the contact switch inside will disconnect and the torque motors will automatically stop, relieving tension on both the upper and lower platters. You need to tone and bias your stock before you make any kind of recording, or what is commonly called a transfer, as you are coming from one medium, such as a 1/4-inch Nagra, digital DAT, audio cassette, or other 35mm playback unit, to another medium. In this manner, it is simple and efficient to repatch from one source to another in a matter of seconds. Every make of stock will respond differently, needing more or less electrical energy to stimulate the magnetic molecules in the emulsion known as mag that is on the film. This energy glue is known as bias. To accomplish this, we are going to need to use a device known as a reference tone generator. The rectangular square button shown is the on-off switch. The volume control for tone level is the round knob to the left of the on-off switch. There are 3 buttons below the on-off switch. Each button activates the generation of a precise frequency. The 3 established frequencies to calibrate equipment professionally are 1. Low end, in this case 40 cycle tone or represented as 40 Hertz. Second, the mid-range, which is 1000 cycle tone, is represented as 1 kilohertz. And third, the high end, which is 10,000 cycle tone or represented as 10 kilohertz. Quick and common transfers are usually biased and calibrated using only the 1000 cycle mid-range tone. The transfer department will usually ask the client, or the client may have to request the transfer department, to bias and calibrate all 3 tones, which in transfer slang is known as to the tits, meaning the most precise lineup that is possible. This obviously takes patience, focus, and more time to do so, in order that the bias strength is at its optimum for that particular roll of magnetic stock. This takes a few extra minutes to calibrate, which is an hourly rate, which in turn costs the client a few extra dollars. The question to the client is, how important is the quality of your sound to your picture? Okay, so you have patched your tone generator, the output port being on your patch panel. In this case, it is located to the left of the diagram. You have connected it through a patch cord from the female tone generator output port into the channel 1 record female connection port on the patch panel. Now you are sending whatever reference tone you decide to choose directly to channel 1 of the 4-track head stack. Next, select the 1000 cycle or 1 kilohertz reference tone. Next, turn the reference tone generator on. It is now generating the signal. Next, with the AB assignment toggle switch, which is located above the channel 1 VU meter on the overbridge, adjust the volume of the reference tone until the level sits exactly at 0 on the VU meter. Next, push the play button on your transport control, not shown. This will start the film stock rolling across the head stack. You must wait a moment until the film comes up to true speed. Watch your tension rollers, making sure that they are not oscillating up and down, but have settled down into a steady and even feed to the head stack. Now it is safe to commence recording. Depress the red record button on the channel 1 record amplifier. It will light up and you are recording a signal onto the mag stock. At this point, you will see the VU meter on the channel 1 record amplifier respond. The VU meter on the overbridge is showing you the exact level that you are sending to the record head, and the VU meter on the record amplifier. These 2 needles need to read the same. As you engage the record button and your amplifier VU meter comes to life, it most likely will not read the same. That is why you need to calibrate and bias your stock. Next, adjust the large volume control knob to the left of the record amplifier VU meter. You will either turn it up or down depending on whether you need more or less volume. Each click stop of this control knob equals 1/2 decibel of increase or decrease. Adjust this until both VU meter needles show identical levels. No, you are not done yet. You have only matched the lineup tone. Now you have to calibrate the correct amount of electrical energy to properly stimulate the magnetic emulsion. Poorly calibrated or non-calibrated at all can cause excessive bias hiss noise. All right, your stock is running, your reference tone is being recorded, and both VU meters match. Now, using a small flat-headed screwdriver, you insert it into the flush-mounted bias amp located on the far right side of the record amplifier. At this time, you pay close attention to the bias meter. As you adjust the bias amp up, the needle on the bias meter will rise and rise and rise, and at some point it will suddenly collapse. This means that you have just passed the ideal amount of electrical force the stock requires. Using the screwdriver, back down the bias amp slightly until the needle in the bias meter pops back up to its maximum point. Your stock is now properly biased. Now look at the record amp VU meter. The needle is properly no longer matching the upper VU meter on the overbridge. Now readjust the record amp volume control click by click until it matches the overbridge VU meter again. You have just completed the lineup tone and bias calibration. It actually takes a lot less time to accomplish than the time we just spent explaining it. If your machine is fitted out with an A-B comparison overbridge like this one, you can flip the A-B toggle switch back and forth and satisfy yourself from a single VU meter that there is no error in the calibration. The needle should not move. Once you are satisfied, you can either push the off square button on the record amplifier, or if you push the stop button on the transport controls, the record mode will turn off automatically. I know, you think you are finished. Well, you only did channel 1, remember? Now, instead of wasting more precious 35mm mag stock, push the rewind button on the transport controls and back up your stock to the top where you started calibrating the magnetic emulsion in the first place. Experienced transfer personnel can actually set up and calibrate all 4 channels at once, but until you get the hang of it, you probably will want to do them 1 channel at a time. You repeat the process just as outlined before. Okay, if you are requested to calibrate to the tits, now you have to go through the same process on each channel the same way. First, using low-end frequency tone, in this case 40 cycles or 40 hertz, and when you finish doing that, you repeat the process using high-end frequency tone, 10,000 cycles or 10 kilohertz. The difference in these 2 frequency adjustments is that you do not adjust the bias energy. There are small recessed adjustment controls, not shown in this diagram, above the transport path that have precise adjustment controls made with that small screwdriver. Each frequency amp controls that precise low, mid-range, and high-end frequencies.